Today on Variant, I talk about Professor X's son, Legion. Welcome to Variant, where we love comics more than I want the X-Men to be part of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I'm your host, Arris. Before I get into today's episode, I just want to remind you that this Saturday, February 25th, I will once again be hanging out and selling collectibles and figures from my personal collection at the Lost Toys in Dallas, Texas. I'll have a bunch of DC and Marvel stuff, most of which has never even been opened. But even if action figures aren't your thing, be sure to stop by anyway just to say hi. It's always great to chat with you guys. Not to mention, the store is great and has everything nerdy your heart could desire. Anyway, I'll be there from noon to 5 p.m. I put the address and all the details in the description below, so I hope to see you there this Saturday, February 25th. But as for today's episode, many of you know that FX recently debuted their new X-Men-based series, Legion. And every time a comic book character hits the big or small screen, you guys know I like to talk about their comic book history. So let's see what this Omega-level mutant is all about. Legion was created by writer Chris Claremont and artist Bill Shenkowitz, and first appeared on the pages of a comic book in New Mutants issue 25 in 1985. Legion's real name is David Charles Haller, and he's the son of Charles Xavier and Gabrielle Haller. Gabrielle was actually one of Xavier's patients while he was working for an Israeli mental health institution, and he was secretly using his powers to help ease the pain of Holocaust survivors who were patients there. Xavier and Gabrielle developed a relationship and got it on one night, resulting in Gabrielle becoming pregnant with Xavier's son. Gabrielle decided not to tell the professor, leaving him unaware of his son for years. Although, with all his mind powers, you would think he would have figured it out sooner. But anyway, when David was a kid, he was the victim of a terrorist attack, in which he was the only survivor. The stress and the trauma from the attack caused David's powers to emerge, thus granting him his mutant abilities. Now you may be asking, what did he do with his new mutant abilities, Arris? Well, you know, not much. He just incinerated the minds of the terrorists. But when he did this, he unwittingly psychically connected himself with their thoughts and emotions as they died. He also absorbed the mind of terrorist leader Jamel Karami. This shattered David's mind into multiple personas, giving him dissociative identity disorder, or simply DID, and put him into a catatonic state. Years went by and Karami's consciousness eventually separated from David's, but it was still trapped within David's mind, and he gained control of David's telepathic powers. With this power, he tried to restore David's mind back to normal. But that just caused other personas to pop out, like Jack Wayne, who controls David's telekinesis, and Cindy, a temperamental girl who controls David's pyrokinesis, making Karami, Wayne, and Cindy Legion's three main personalities out of the thousands that there is, which is one of the many reasons he's called Legion, for he is many. Several things happened after this, including Xavier finally finding out that Legion, aka David, is his son. Legion even joins a sub-team of the X-Men. But this brings us to a huge event for Legion in the X-Men title called Legion Quest. After waking up from his coma due to his encounter with the Shadow King, Legion was all like, you know what? I'm going to use my time-warping abilities to go back in time to stop Magneto from becoming the horrible person that he is. The main reason David did this is because his father, Professor X, just wants all mutant kind to live in peace with one another, as well as live in peace with normal humans. You know, synergy. Anyway, while in the past, Legion attempts to kill Magneto, but Xavier, being the good man that he is, jumps in front of his son's psychic knife and takes the killing blow for his dear friend at the time, Magneto. After Xavier dies in front of Magneto, Magneto vows to carry on his friend's dream. And right then, Legion, Storm, and several other X-Men disappear from existence. Legion's mistake of accidentally killing his father created an alternate timeline known as the ever-so-popular Age of Apocalypse storyline. That's right, Legion is responsible for the Age of Apocalypse. But don't worry, this is comic books we're talking about here, so of course everything gets fixed. Professor X was brought back and everything was put back to normal. Although, I will say, during the Age of Apocalypse story, Legion is killed by Bishop when he puts a Psyblade into his chest. Talk about karma. While dying, he sees a glimpse from Age of Apocalypse and apologizes for messing with the timelines. Geez, David and Barry Allen would really get along. Now you may be wondering how Bishop could have killed Legion if he had already been erased from existence. Well, time travel. That's how, when it comes to anything confusing in comic books, the answer is always time travel. Anyway, as you may have guessed, Legion didn't stay dead, and after his return, we soon find out in New Mutants issue 5 that he was an Omega-level mutant. He was confirmed as such by X-Club members when Rogue was done siphoning some of his split personalities after his defeat. Skipping a few things here and there, Legion was eventually given a neural switchboard wristband. This wristband allowed him to key in a number that would stimulate cells in his body, creating a one-way link between Legion's own mind and one of his many personalities. Because of this, Legion could utilize power sets without being overwhelmed by the personality. So it's kinda like Ben 10 in a way, where he could choose what power he wants to use by changing the setting on his wristband. Okay, it's actually exactly like Ben 10. The band was made by Dr. Nemesis, Reed Richards, and Madison Jeffries. Later, it was revealed that several of David's personas had escaped. The X-Men helped Legion hunt down and reabsorb all of his personas, but while absorbing the very last one, he accidentally absorbed Rogue as well. Man, this guy just can't catch a break. When he finally released her, he suffered a massive shock to his nervous system. But here's the kicker, my friends. Rogue said that while she was inside Legion's mind, she was connected to thousands of types of powers, and there are more powers being born all the time. So basically, this guy is like ungodly powerful and can access almost any type of power. But I'll get more into that when I talk about his abilities in a second. During Avengers vs. X-Men, when the Phoenix Force was approaching Earth looking for a host, it caused all Omega-level mutants pain, and Legion was no exception. Then, at some point, Professor X took Legion to a mystic named Mirza to help control his powers. With Mirza's help, David was able to gain control over his powers by constructing a prison in his own mind and locking away a crap ton of sub-personalities while using needle gloves to drain the persona of its power. However, this didn't last long. When the Phoenix Force possessed Cyclops and killed Professor X, the mental shock of his father dying caused Legion to lose control and free all the evil personalities he had put away. Then in the final issue of X-Men Legacy, we see Legion finally reach the full magnitude of his powers, and he decides to erase himself from existence by never being born. Because why the heck not? But all is not lost, as an aspect of himself still lives within the character Blindfold's mind. This, my comic comrades, brings me to powers and abilities. Like I've said already, Legion is an Omega level mutant, meaning he can do just about anything, and there's no real limit to his powers. Each of his personas have the ability to manifest and control a different superpower, and he has thousands of personas, so you could just imagine how many powers this guy has. Just a few of those powers are pyrokinesis, telekinesis, telepathy, reality manipulation, time manipulation, self-duplication, pain induction, which allows him to make others feel pain. Then there's soul absorption. That's right, he could absorb a person's soul with a touch and take command of their consciousness. He also possesses super strength, X-ray vision, space manipulation, transmutation. He could take away people's powers, flight, and a form of teleportation that allows him to teleport to a person, no matter how far away they are. In fact, he once used this power to teleport billions of miles into space to find someone. This is of course different from Nightcrawler, who teleports to places. Anyway, Legion can also turn into a werewolf. Yeah, that's a real thing. Again, each of these powers are used by one of his different personas, but the main point is this guy is insanely freaking powerful. I mean, everything I mentioned is only the tip of the iceberg when it comes to his powers. DC isn't the only one who has overpowered characters. But all this brings me to reading recommendations. You have New Mutants issue 25 through 28, X-Men Legion Quest, X-Men Second Coming, X-Men Age of Apocalypse, and X-Men Legacy. First up for Wednesday, February 22nd, we have Elektra issue 1. If you're a fan of Elektra, this is your chance to jump onto her new title, and it's going to be taking place in Las Vegas. Here we have Thanos issue 4. This issue deals with the only child Thanos has left, Thane. And finally, we have Spider-Gwen issue 17. In this issue, we may find out what villain is threatening Miles all the way in Gwen's universe. And that'll bring another episode of Variant to a close. But if you like what you see, be sure to subscribe and then hit the little bell to be notified every time we upload a new video. But as always, remember you can like our Variant Facebook page, keep up with the show and all things comic related. You could also follow Variant on Twitter at Variant Comics or me on Twitter at Arris_Quinones. But I'll see your faces next week when I talk about all things comics. Gabrielle was actually one of Xavier's patients while he was working at an Israeli psychiatric facility. Gabrielle was actually one of Xavier's patients while he was working at an Israeli psychiatric facility. Gabrielle was actually one of Xavier's patients while he was working at an Gabrielle was actually one of Xavier's patients while he was working at a mental health facility in Israel. I could have said that.